And I'd like a report out from our closed session.
Thank you, Mayor Agramonte and Council. We met in closed session regarding labor negotiations, and the Council gave us direction. There's nothing open, nothing else to report. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So I would like to know if there's any comments from the public. Oh golly, where am I? Who? Oh yeah. Oh golly, I really jumped ahead. I can't find it here. Okay. At this point, I'd like to convene and call the order of and Pledge of Allegiance, if you would all stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. So, and I apologize, I think I jumped ahead, but report out on closed session, and our city manager said there was nothing to report. Thank you so much. So so we've already done that, and I'm closing here. I'd like to know ask if anyone has changes to the agenda.
I have a change.
Do you have a change?
Could I change the roll call?
Can you not hear
Order.
us? No. Oh, the microphone's on.
Could I change the roll call?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
I would rather go last this time, I think in the order.
Use the
Yeah, I was first the last time, or 2 times ago, then it should go in the other order.
Okay,
Yeah, I think we had some system, so you wouldn't be in that position any longer.
Yeah, so let me just briefly explain. The roll call is the roll call order, and at 2 meetings ago, we tried something new, which there was some confusion and something I didn't understand how it worked. So we went back to the prior way the council has done the roll call. The roll call is the order of the votes in which it is called, and I do think this is something council may want to discuss in the future about potentially looking at how to change this. So my understanding is what we've done is we went back to the prior order and just started then moving back to the prior system. And then with that, Councilmember Cook, you were second, and then based on the prior order, and then first. So you were first, and then we went back to the prior order and have just started using that system again. It is a pleasure of the council if you want to change it, but that is what staff had done.
So that's
And then the mayor on the roll call vote always goes last. So at the pleasure of the council, if they would like to have it be, push Mr. Cook to the end and move Councilmember Hunley, Vice Mayor Harrington, Councilmember Edwards, then Councilmember Cook, and then Mayor Agramonte. That is the pleasure of the council.
And this would be a rotation, a continuous rotation?
It is rotated every meeting already. That's the process.
Yeah, so moved.
I'll take a second. All in favor? Well, could I have a roll call vote for that? I don't know if it's necessary, but
And just to
I don't think it is.
I think this is a minor issue. If there's a consensus from the council to change the order,
Okay.
we can change the order. So is there a consensus from the council to change the order?
that's fine.
Okay. So for
So
the
roll call?
Okay.
Councilmember Hunley?
This is the roll call. So this is
I'm
you're
here.
present. Yes.
Vice Mayor
Councilman.
Harrington? Here. Councilmember Edwards?
Here.
Councilmember Cook?
Here.
And Mayor Agramonte?
Here.
Thank you.
Are these microphones on at all? I feel like I usually hear it. Is this?
When your mouth is right up near it,
Kristen,
it works.
you know how this works.
Okay, now? Can you hear me now?
No. Usually it's louder.
Okay. We will. Our technician is hearing that in the back, and so he'll keep working to see if there's any other way. Meanwhile, council members and staff will try to speak more directly into the mic and speak up. Thank you. So we've already done the report to closed session, so now we would move to approval of the agenda.
Approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any changes?
I would like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Roll call, please. I scared myself.
Councilmember Henley,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Edwards,
Yes.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Mayor Agramonte.
Aye.
Thank you.
Oh, my God. That's pretty loud. So at this point, at this time, members of the public may comment. Can you hear me? It's kind of loud. Members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on the agenda. It is recommended that you keep your comments to 3 minutes or less under state law unless otherwise permitted under the Ralph M. Brown Act. The merits of the matters presented under this item cannot be discussed or acted upon by the City Council at this time. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to make comments at that time, at the time the items come up to the council. Consideration upon being acknowledged by the mayors, please step to the podium and speak into the microphone. Begin by stating and spelling your name. So I'm open for public comments.
Thank you, Mayor. Whoa. That's good. Thank you, Mayor Agramonte. Ken Brown, BROWN, 1396 Lubeck Street in Sonoma. Medicinal cannabis dispensary and delivery. We're patiently waiting the developments here at the council, and we are hoping for the best. My wife Jewel and I are planning our first night, December 31st, 2018, at the Vets Building. We're going to be coming to the city for funding. We'll be going to the county as well, the TID, the Vintners and Growers, the Ed Foundation, and whoever else I come up with. I hope the city continues to work in a positive fashion with the lodge and our neighborhood on Friar Creek and the streets surrounding the lodge and the affordable housing project. Issues around construction and the loading dock can be solved. I'm looking forward to the general plan discussion. A lot of exciting things happening here at the council. And I want everyone to know that City Manager Capriola will be coming on the Hey Neighbor show, so stay tuned.
Thank you. We're open for public comment.
Good evening. My name is Liz Fikowski. That's F as in Frank, IEKOWSKY. I personally live in Santa Rosa. I work for Engineers and Scientists of California, Local 20. I'm a labor rep, and I represent I represent a lot of people in the area, but tonight I'm here on behalf of County of Sonoma behavioral health workers. With your permission, I'm not going to lay out their case. They would like to address you themselves, if that's okay.
Well, each will have to introduce themselves and give an address.
Of
That's
course,
fine.
understood. And do you want my address? Sure. It's 922 Clark Street, Santa Rosa. And let me just preface this by saying that we're here because the County of Sonoma is proposing massive reductions to the mental health programs, including major cuts to services, including to the City of Sonoma Community Mental Health Clinic, and layoffs, which will further impact the community and basically everyone in Sonoma County. On the table right now are proposed 30 layoffs and the deletion of another 45 vacant positions. It amounts to almost a 25% reduction in the mental health workforce. These are direct service providers. So I'm going to allow the clinicians to speak for themselves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Sherry Novi, Novi. My address is 15546 Brookview Drive, Sonoma. I am a alcohol and other drug service counselor too for the county. I've worked there for 5 years. I'm actually out at Juvenile Hall. I run the adolescent treatment program for the residents at Juvenile Hall and at probation camp. And I provide advocacy and services and education and outreach to them, so when they leave the hall, they have access to the programs that are out there if they want services. I also do assessments for probation for court for level of treatment. I'm the only adolescent treatment program counselor for the entire county. My position is on the chopping block. I'm the 5th person out of 7 that have to go for 4 jobs. There are 3 vacant jobs that are going to be eliminated. If my position is eliminated, well, it's not my position. If I'm eliminated, there'll be nobody providing those services. And there's a serious opioid epidemic, a serious Xanax epidemic, a serious cocaine epidemic in the valley with our adolescents. And when they leave juvenile hall, they are not required, unless they are on probation and probation sends them to a program, to get any services. So I'm the only person that they'll ever talk to about that unless they reach out on their own. And there isn't a lot of services for adolescents anyway in the community. There isn't inpatient treatment to speak of. So the cuts are horrific to behavioral health, especially this time during the fires. We spent all our time during the fires working at the Sonoma Valley. I worked at the school district for years. I've been in this community for over 35 years. I'm devastated by it. I really believe in this county, and I hope that you'll support us and go to Susan Gorn and ask her to stop these cuts. They're direct cuts of like almost 40 people. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Lisa Nosal, that's N-O-S-A-L, and I live in Sonoma. I work for Sonoma County Behavioral Health, but I'm speaking tonight as a private citizen. I work in our adult outpatient clinics in the outlying areas, which includes Cloverdale, Guerneville, Petaluma, and Sonoma. We have a clinic right on Grove Street. While the proposed cuts will affect our entire county, I believe they'll be particularly devastating in the areas outside of Santa Rosa, including Sonoma and Sonoma Valley. Sonoma County Behavioral Health serves clients in the Sonoma Valley who have severe mental illness, along with multiple impairments in major life functioning, like homelessness. I've already had to tell a number of these Sonoma clients that due to our already short staffing, we've had a budget freeze since August, or a hiring freeze since August, I'll be unable to continue providing services that these clients have identified as life-changing. I've seen clients with diagnoses and symptoms often dismissed as incurable make enormous positive changes in their lives due to our interventions. Without the staffing required to provide these services, the likelihood is that these clients will, at best, tread water without much improvement, and at worst, end up in our hospitals or jail or homeless. I predict that calls to law enforcement will greatly increase, as well as visits to local emergency departments. Cutting services at Sonoma County Behavioral Health will add pressure to other local agencies that are not necessarily equipped to be treating people with severe mental illness. The reason I think these proposed cuts will disproportionately affect Sonoma is because of our paucity of other services in this area. While Sonoma does have a number of mental health providers and therapists, Psychology Today lists 31 just in Sonoma, few of them accept Medi-Cal. The Medi-Cal website lists only 2 therapists and 1 agency in the entire Sonoma Valley that will accept Medi-Cal clients. The agency, Sonoma Valley Community Health Center, is facing its own budget challenges and is moving away from providing ongoing therapy for clients. One of the listed therapists does not actually take Medi-Cal clients in her private practice, and the final therapist listed on the site is not currently accepting new clients. The next closest Medi-Cal therapists are in Petaluma, Novato, and Napa. For people with Medi-Cal who have limited incomes, the time and gas money required for weekly visits to any of those places will likely be prohibitive. Where will they go? Or will they simply ignore their mental health issues and go untreated? Sonoma cannot abandon its neediest residents. The Board of Supervisors can still reject the proposed budget cuts and layoffs for Sonoma County Behavioral Health. I urge you to speak with Supervisor Gorin and with the entire board and ask them for much less drastic measures to balance the budget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Patricia Thomas, Thomas. I live at 496 Crivelli Road.
I've lived in Sonoma Valley for almost 30 years, raised my children here. They went to school here. I used to work for some of the local nonprofits. Now I work for Sonoma County Behavioral Health. Worked there for the last 5 years. My classification is Senior Client Support Specialist. We have 22 Senior Client Support Specialists, and they are trying to move forward with eliminating 11 positions. Currently, my particular team that I work on, we have 6 combination of senior client support specialists and like a clinician or an MFT. We have 6 people. We have over 400 clients. It's been one of the most challenging things any of us have ever experienced in our employment to try to serve these clients with such a limited amount of staff, of line staff. That's now going to be cut. In January, there were 3 suicides for Sonoma County Behavioral Health clients. This week, I had a peer come in my office, very, very upset. She had just heard that one of her clients had died. She'd done everything that she could with her limited time to reach out to him, but he had dual diagnosed, very, very ill. She'd done as many home visits as she had time for. She tried to get him to the doctors. She'd done everything that she could, yet she couldn't do it on a daily basis because we all have about 65 clients on our caseload. He was 40 years old. You know, he died 2 days ago. So I'm here today to ask for your support in advocating with Susan Gorin. Surely there are other ways and means than to cut line staff that provide these direct services to these very, very ill people, and also to advocate not to eliminate the full-time positions that the county is attempting to do. As my peers spoke so eloquently about, this is going to be a ripple effect. When behavioral health is already impacted by the lack of staff, reducing it further, we're going to be able to serve less people. The police stations, the jails, Kaiser, the hospitals, the ER rooms, there's no holding place for these people. And Sonoma County Behavioral Health and all the teams that work for Sonoma County Behavioral Health, we're the holding for these people. We help get them their medical care. We help get them housing. We help get them benefits. This is what we do probably 9 hours a day. And they're proposing now to pretty much eliminate our ability to be able to do that. So I actually beseech you to advocate for us with Thank Susan you. Gorin.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Good evening. My name is Marina Abbott. I live at 15556 Maplewood Drive in Sonoma. I have worked for Sonoma County Behavioral Health for over 11 years. My first 9 years, I served the population, the mentally ill population here in Sonoma Valley. Over the years, I've seen the level of service that we've been able to provide erode, and the health and well-being of these people and those people who care for them erode. And now we're looking at as my colleagues have very eloquently pointed out, a 25% cut to what we already can't do. I'm going to keep my remarks brief. I do urge you to maybe come up with a nice resolution urging the Board of Supervisors to reconsider and press the Behavioral Health Department and the Department of Health Services to continue to provide robust funding to protect the citizens of this valley, both those who are ill and those who live near them. Because people who are severely mentally ill and don't get care aren't always able to manage their own behavior, and disaster and tragedy results. I think we've seen that in Florida recently, and I would really just be heartbroken to see it here. Thank you.
Ms. Abbott.
Hi there, my name is Vicki Rohr, R-O-H-R-E-R, and I live at 36 Woodworth Lane in Sonoma. I'm a clinician intern. I work for the Sonoma County Behavioral Health CAPE team. So we do crisis intervention for youth and teens and young adults. Primarily we're in the high schools. And with these, potential layoffs and deficit issues, we've already seen an impact with the services. So 3 of my colleagues were actually transferred this week to the youth and family treatment team for the county without being asked if they wanted to go there, but because the treatment teams are so severely short-staffed, which means for us that now we are short-staffed and unable to provide the intervention and suicide prevention services that we have offered to over 20 high schools and agencies within the county. We've seen an impact too already with the elimination of the extra help staff, that we do home visits for youth who have been psychiatrically hospitalized and help connect them to the county for services. And we've already seen that these youth now have more of a wait time getting into services when they're in a very severe time of life when they've been really struggling. So I think we're just here today really asking you guys to advocate for us. We haven't really been invited to the table or asked for our ideas or our input on, what could better serve our community. We understand that there's a difficult deficit right now, but nobody's asking us what we think would be a good solution. Nobody's asking me if I would work less so that my colleagues could keep their jobs. So we just kind of implore you guys to talk to Susan Gorin and see if there's a way to kind of slow down these decisions that they're making behind closed doors, and just see if they can, invite us to the table and see if there's a better way to serve our community and our clients without taking such drastic measures in such short periods of time. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rohrer. Are there any additional comments from the I think you've already had, there's a gentleman from the back. Thank you.
But thank you for hearing us out.
That's actually for the city council.
Oh, thank you.
Good evening, City Council, Honorable Mayor. My name is Ed Routhier, Routhier. I live at 302 Hatchery Lane in Sonoma. Since moving to Sonoma 15 years ago to raise our family, we've enjoyed a deep and fruitful relationship with the community. Friendships of a lifetime have been made here, and we've enjoyed watching companies we've invested in grow and prosper and create jobs. Seeing Oktoberfest become Sonoma's annual celebration of kids, and the houses we built occupied by young families. There's an adage that a clever developer never develops in their own community. I've learned the truth of this. My children have been bullied. My wife has been attacked by the press. And wherever I go, I'm being stalked by individuals determined to run me and my family out of this town. In front of you is just one of countless examples I could think of today as I was writing this of personal attacks by Protect Sonoma that have only one goal in mind: to punish me for having a different vision for Sonoma. This attack by Protect Sonoma came the day I was invited to be the guest speaker at the annual Rotary Club and Kiwanis luncheon, a luncheon in which I talked about why housing is so expensive in Sonoma. Another attack occurred at the Sonoma Valley Hospital Board meeting shortly thereafter. But their attacks only escalated in nature and grew from petty disparagements to outright slander. I've suffered this bullying with equanimity sometimes, and others I fought back and said enough is enough. Recently, the press decided my fight with Protect Sonoma, including those members who sit on the PC, would be entertaining to the public and sell a few more papers. It has been anything but entertaining for my family. I'm not here, though, to defend my decision to stand up for myself or complain about journalists. I'm here to point out that the same individuals who have been harassing me for years are now determined to stop my family from living in their neighborhood. They've created a fake battle over Shocking Hill, and they've filled it with false and misleading information, but it's a facade simply to keep us out of the neighborhood. What is most painful to me, though, is a dear friend and a pillar of Sonoma, Bill Jasper, is being attacked as well for welcoming my family to build our dream home on one of his lots, All 3 of those lots are owned by Bill Jasper, or Bill Jasper's trusts. Protect Sonoma is pretending my potential ownership and involvement is new information that was hidden by Bill from the public. It has been public information for years since applications were first submitted. It is the covert reason they have been fighting the project since day one. As well, I toured the
Mr.
property.
Ruthie, Mr. Ruth, no.
10 more
no,
seconds. Okay.
Sorry, this is my place here.
Okay, got it.
So I appreciate your getting up, and I'm sorry, but you had 30 seconds. You had 3 minutes to do
Okay, well,
this.
thank you for your time.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Right.
Are there any others from the public who would like to speak this evening? Seeing no one rise to the dais, I would like to close the public comments section. Thank you. Are there any meeting dedications this evening? None? Oh, I know you. I know exactly what you're looking for. None? Thank you. At this, we are number 3 on presentations, and you know, I have to say to our city clerk, I don't see a lot of the people out there, so I do see a few that we'd like to honor. And from our recognition of the outgoing community services and environment commissions, and I would like to announce their names: Christopher Petlock, Richard Pollock, Denise Wilbanks, Design Review Heritage Preservation Commissioner Bill Essert, Cultural and Fine Arts Commissioners Nellie Cravens, Antoinette Khoury, Kari Antko, and Pam Personette, and Traffic Safety Committee member Jean-Louis Camus-Boynton. Would you please raise your hand if you're out there? Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. And I think they're in alphabetical order, is that right? They're in order of the agenda. That's not alphabetical. But I'd like to say thank you. Is this on? Thank you so much for being here this evening. So I recognize Mr. Petlock. If you could come up with your lovely child. Oh, no, you don't want to?
She would love to meet you, Madam.
Oh, here we go. And I'm sorry, may I introduce her? Oh, you. Hi, Lucia. Welcome to the City Council chambers. Would you like to join your father? Nobody will look. You're good? Okay. So I'd like to give you a certificate of appreciations for your dedication and service to the City of Sonoma, Community Services and Environmental Commissioner, November 2009 through February 2018, and presented this 21st day of February 2018. Thank you so much, Chris. Thank you.
Nellie Cravens?
That's right. You're right. That's right. Yes, well, yes, that would be good. Would you like to step forward?
Yes, I'd love to. It's been an honor and privilege.
Well, I'm sure I'm a nightmare for our wonderful city clerk because it was organized in a different way. Well, Nellie, it's so nice to see you here this evening. So on behalf of the City of Sonoma, I'd like to give you this certificate of appreciation to you, Nellie Cravens, for your dedicated service to the City of Sonoma for serving on Cultural and Fine Arts Commissioner, as a Cultural and Fine Arts Commissioner from May 2012 to February 2018, and presented this 21st day of February 2008, 2018. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam.
Thank you. Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. So I know I'm a nightmare for our city clerk. And I'm sorry, who else is here?
Denise Wilbanks.
Wilbank. I should know that. Gosh, sorry, Denise. We were just together. I just spoke at the Kiwanis Club. Well, I've been, you know what? I've been threatened to end this meeting soon, so I'm looking for Denise. Oh, you hear? I've got it. Thank you. Here we go, Denise. It was so nice working with you recently. So, on behalf of the City of Sonoma, I'd like to present this certificate of appreciation to you, Denise Wilbanks, for your dedicated service to the City of Sonoma, Community Services and Environment Commissioner as Community Services and Environment Commissioner from July 2015 to July 2017, presented this 21st day of February 2018. Thank you so much, Denise. I know you do a lot of things in this community, so I really am proud to present this to you. Thank you so much. Thank you. So I did announce the names of everyone, and I'm sorry to our city clerk. I'm sure this is a nightmare at this moment. I don't believe there are any others out here. So thank you so much. And I'm so sorry that our young lady didn't come up, but that's okay. So at this point, we're moving on to all items listed on the consent calendar are considered to be routine and will be acted upon by a single motion. There will be no separate discussion of these items unless members of the council, staff, or public request specific items to be removed for separate action. At this time, council may decide to change the order of the agenda. What is the pleasure of the council?
Mayor Agramonte and Council, just one item on 4.2, which is on the consent calendar. This are the actions and findings for you to deny the appeal regarding the Altamira Affordable Apartment Project. You have in front of you on your dais some minor edits to the resolution, some minor typos, nothing substantive. And then also the conditions of approval, you also have a track changes. Staff wanted to make sure that we added not only Sundays were already included for no construction, but also city recognized holidays. So those are additional changes that are in front of you and were not in the original packet. So we would ask that you would include when you if you move forward and approve the consent calendar, that you would approve it with the modifications that are in front of you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any comments from the city council? Having I'd like to open the comments from the public. Anyone from the public?
Ken Brown, I'm glad that you included Sundays as a day of rest and city holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no one rise to the podium, I'd like to close the public.
So move to approve with the modifications.
Second.
Councilmember Hunley.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Edwards.
Yes.
Councilmember Cook.
Aye.
Mayor Agramonte. Thank you. The
Thank you.
motion carries 5-0 unanimously.
Thank you. So, let's see. I'm calling on the city clerk right now. Thank you.
Moving into regular business, item 6.1, discussion, consideration, and possible action to rescind approval to remove one fruit-bearing ginkgo tree in the Sonoma Plaza and associated direction from the January 29th council meeting, and to provide staff with any further direction.
City manager.
Thank you, Mayor Agramonte and Council and Community. So just a bit of background on this. On January 29th council meeting, city staff brought forward both a staff recommendation and a recommendation from the traffic committee to remove 3 fruit-bearing trees from the northeast section of the plaza. And that staff report was presented. The concern of staff and the tree committee were both smell and slipping that folks occurred from the trees, and just kind of a variety and the amount of time it takes to kind of keep sidewalks clean and clear. So there was conversation about that with the council and the community here that night. You heard public comment, and on a 3-2 vote, council approved to only remove one tree. That was a tree called B52, which is on the corner. And the full motion, I just want to read it. It was a motion by Councilmember Hunley, seconded by Councilmember Edwards, to direct staff to move forward with the removal of tree B52, but not to remove B48 or B57. And as the trees go through another fruiting season, to document reports from individuals regarding slipping and other problems associated with the trees, and bring the item back earlier before the next nesting season, and to explore alternative ways to deal with the fruit, particularly in regards to B57, which is the larger tree by what I call the Big Kid Playground, while keeping the tree. So the motion carried with Councilmember Edwards, Councilmember Hunley, and Mayor Agramonte voting yes, and Councilmember Cook and Mayor Pro Tem Harrington voting no. At the February 5th council meeting, Mayor Agramonte requested the council basically reconsider those actions and asked to agendize at the next meeting, and council voted 3-2 to do so this evening. So tonight, the action in front of you is a consideration, a possible action to rescind the approval to remove one fruit-bearing ginkgo tree from the plaza, and then in the associated direction for the January 29th. And so I will turn it over to Mayor Agramonte here in just a second. Staff would ask that if the recommendation and decision by the council is to not remove a tree, we believe that some of the rest of the items in terms of looking at alternative ways to remove the fruit, working with an arborist, and then still coming back later with maybe a broader report to the council would still be relevant and important to do. So with that, though, I'll turn it to Mayor Agramonte.
Thank you so much. So are there any questions from the city council regarding this issue? None? Mr. Councilmember Edwards or Hundley, if there are no questions, I'd like to receive public comments. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak?
Ken Brown. I'm a member of the tree committee. It's the second meeting I've missed in 24 years. I would have voted to save the tree. I'm glad that Mayor Agramonte has given this tree another chance, and I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Anyone else interested in sharing?
Good evening, Council. Chris Block, 426 Napa Road, Sonoma. I also am a member of the tree committee. I was an alternate on the committee. I wasn't informed that there was an absent that night. I too would have not voted to cut down this tree. And in fact, in the 9 years that I've served on the City Services Commission, we've never voted ever to chop down a tree that was not either destroying public property or in imminent danger to the public. So I can't imagine how this got here. I really appreciate you reconsidering this. I know you've heard a lot of comments, so I will zip it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Are there any others from the public who would like to who have comments? Having none, I'll bring it back to the city council. Is there anything the council would like to share? None. Hello. Okay.
So I since we had this conversation, I took, whenever I picked up Tom Kennard, who actually planted the tree with his father. And so he took a look. Tom suffered a stroke on October 7th.
That's a shame.
And but he's recouping, has all of his mental facilities, etc. He just can't get around as well. So I went over and drove him over to the site. We walked around. It was after that we had that little windstorm, and actually some of the ancient fruit that hangs out in the tree happened to blow down. And city staff, city public works was out cleaning up all the branches and things that fell that evening. But Tom took a look at the tree, and he agreed with our the majority of the council the first evening, keeping the big tree behind the rock, and the other one down the sidewalk, B48. But he took a look at it where there's one place on B52 where a branch has come off that was cut off some time back, and it's rotted. And he took a look at that. He also took a look at the lean on the tree as well, because it's looking for sunlight, so it's reaching out towards the plaza. And he said as long as we did something with a different type of tree, shrub, or even a rock bench there or something, because if you look at the tree behind there, which I don't know where the picnic tables are in the ADA accessibility area, if you look at the roots, some of the roots are, I don't know, 4 to 6 inches above the dirt that's there, and there's actually no grass there because it's worn out. There's no potential for grass to grow there. So there's a lot of work that needs to be done on that corner, and he would be happy to help advise on that during his recovery. But he, as the person who planted the tree, doesn't have a big issue with the tree coming out. And it's something that I knew his father very well, and he just said, you know, he's the guy who planted a lot of the trees on the plaza and has protected the plaza for years. But I wanted to bring a person who was actually involved in this tree, and he loves ginkgos. You know, obviously they planted them, but there were a lot of ginkgo trees planted in the last 40 years. So I wanted to report that out, that's the kind of work that I try to do, is go out and find the people who, with the history, and he doesn't really have a big issue with this coming down. He can see the problems and the issues, and I still feel that I would like to see that, especially looking at these photos that we have tonight with the trees all leafed out. I would love to see that tree still go away, solve everybody's issues, and open that up and actually improve that entire area. If you actually walk it and spend some time around those picnic tables, I'm surprised we're not getting issues with folks that are with ADA accessibility issues, giving us more things to work on in that particular corner. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much. Anyone else?
Oh, I just wanted to say that, actually, with regard to Councilmember Edwards' comments at the last meeting, that I do think we need to work on a plaza plan, and that would include, I hope, the health of the trees, so we have an assessment of that, and then things like the garbage cans and all of, you know, I'd like to see the bigger kids' playground updated. All those things dealt with comprehensively would probably be the smartest approach, so I didn't comment on that last time, but I do think that that's something we need to work on, and that these trees and all the trees are part of that. What's healthy, what make, you know, all those things should be looked at as one part of one plan, and I'm happy to work on that with anyone else who's interested in it.
Thank you so much. Oh, thank you.
I agree with the decision that was made last time. I think that when we hold a space out as being open to the public, it is our responsibility to keep it safe for the public. But as far as the issue at hand, I think it is too late to address this tree this year, and I think that taking a step back and looking at the plaza, because we've been hearing about tree overcrowding and other issues with our trees, at least I have for 3.5 years, so I think that for everybody it would be perhaps more comfortable next time if we had, you know, written data and we keep track of when we have comments about things and problems. I have heard from at least one person who has slipped on a fruit since the last meeting, so I know that's still happening. And I'm a little bit concerned the fact that we've broadcast the fact that we recognize that there's a hazard on the plaza, which I think puts us in a vulnerable position as a city. But for the sake of, you know, moving forward, I think that the tree gets to stand at least another season.
If there are no other, I have a comment, but I'd like others. Mr. Edwards?
I just want to add one thing. If and when this tree ever does come down, the Kennard grandchildren would like to have it cut in 8-foot pieces so they can build something, put the wood away for 6 or 8 years and build something to give back to the city.
Oh, that sounds good.
So they've done, that family's
Thank
done
you.
that before. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know that family as well as you do, obviously, but they really are a very important part of Sonoma. So I wanted to explain why I asked for reconsideration. And the reason I did a couple of things. One, I think that a day I asked for a meeting of some of our citizens. I think there were about 25 to 30. And what I heard is they felt that there are systems that works other places. And so that's exactly, I looked at this again, and there were processes that take care of, that work on these issues that are of concern to us. And the other thing is, I guess the timeliness of it made it seem and feel like an 11th hour. So if we possibly would have seen this back in October, no, I'll say July, when it wasn't such an urgent issue, because obviously with the fires here in October, that's the last thing on anyone's mind. But I just thought that's exactly why I'm asking for a reconsideration. And so I will look to the council for whatever decision they'd like with respect to a motion.
I'll make a motion to, is it a motion to reconsider the prior matter?
It is a motion to rescind. It's a motion to and the question is, council, are you rescinding the entire motion? Are you rescinding the removal of the tree but retaining the rest of the action? It's a different way you can do it. You can rescind the entire motion and then give us additional direction, or just pull out the section about the tree.
I think we should rescind the entire motion and then just make one new motion. So I'll make a motion to rescind the prior action of the council.
Second.
Thank you. May I have roll call, please?
Councilmember Hunley,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Edwards,
No.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Mayor Agramonte.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion passes 4-1.
I'll make a new motion that the motion will be that the city will study ways to mitigate the effects of the ginkgo trees, including spraying them to reduce fruit and other measures, and that the city will keep track of complaints made in connection with those trees, or other trees as well, those trees.
Second.
Roll call, please?
Councilmember Hunley,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Edwards,
No.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Mayor Agramonte.
Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 4-1.
Thank you so much. We, City Clerk?
Moving on to item 6.2, discussion, consideration, and possible action to adopt a resolution changing the name of the community meeting room to council chambers.
Thank you. So I'd like to turn it over to our head city
To our
manager.
coughing sick city manager, my apologies. Council, so this is an item that was requested by Mayor Agramonte to potentially change the name of this facility from the community meeting room to council chambers. So the staff looked at it, and legally there are no constraints if you want to make that change. The one item that I wanted to add to the staff report that we didn't have information at the time the report was written, there is to change all the signage, because there's signage outside the building and inside the building. It is about $8,300 is our rough estimate to change that signage. We would need, if council approves the action to do it, we would basically bring that back as some kind of a mid-year budget adjustment, or look at whether we could absorb it within the budget. So.
Yeah.
I know that on the prior report it said that, the other cities call it council chambers, but then when I saw the mock-up of council chambers, are you sure it shouldn't be city council chambers?
It can be whatever the pleasure of the council is, whether it's council chambers, city council chambers, that's really the pleasure of the council. And we could go look, I don't remember, I don't have that report in front of me, the research that you did, Mayor, if you want to speak to that.
All of the ones that I've seen, or I went on the website, the only one that's a little different is the city of Santa Rosa, but they all said council chambers. And that was a survey.
Well, just when I looked at the mock-up and it said council chambers, I was thinking, which council? Like, since we're at the police station and not at City Hall, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know in other cities if sometimes your city chambers, your council chambers are located right in your city hall building. Sometimes they're in a community center facility, but a lot of times they are, congruent with, so.
You know, I'm comfortable with council chambers, but if there's a desire to put city council chambers because it's an outside sign, I'm comfortable with that as well. Does anyone else have any comments? Okay, well, I just, so I'd like to go out to the public if for any comments. Seeing none, back to the city council. Councilmember Hundley.
I have to say that I like the current name of our meeting room. I think it's more inclusive and democratic. And I also, it doesn't make sense to me to be making the expense of something like that when it's not necessary. But mostly it's just because I like the fact that community meeting room that's what this is. It's for the community to meet in.
Councilmember Edwards.
So I've known where city council meetings have been since this place was built, and I have no desire or to change the name. This has been the council chambers and community meeting room since this building was built. And I have zero intention of spending $8,000 to change a sign. I just don't think it makes any sense at all.
Are there any comments or questions? I certainly have.
I would support this resolution. If it's okay with the mayor, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion for the resolution to have it. Okay.
I certainly hear what you're saying, but when this building was developed, this was a courtroom. And the police department was next door, so there wasn't really a council chambers here. The council chambers were at City Hall, and the only reason they lost their space was because of the retrofitting of the City Hall. So it was a council chambers back there at City Hall, and I think that this is where the city does its business, and that's why I felt very clear about how I felt about this. And thank you, Mr.
And I did want to answer, I guess, the question. I would support the city council chambers. And if I make a motion in the resolution, can I go ahead and put that in the resolution at this point? So I'd like to make a resolution of the city council of the city of Sonoma changing the name of the community meeting room to city council chambers.
I'll second it.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Hundley,
No.
Vice Mayor Harrington,
Aye.
Councilmember Edwards,
No.
Councilmember Cook,
Aye.
Mayor Agramonte.
I, of course, would like to offer my aye, and just think, it'll say city council chambers long after I'm gone. I don't want to say any of you will be gone, but this will last a lifetime, so I think the cost is really minimal. Thank you. Aye.
Thank you. The motion carries 3-2. That brings us to, you're ready? Yes, thank you. Brings us to item 6.3, discussion, consideration, and possible action regarding a request for council discussion by Councilmember Cook regarding groundwater sustainability agency advocacy on legislation that would affect funding for groundwater programs and projects.
Well, actually, I think on this one, it probably makes sense to turn it to Councilmember Cook, who can give you the background on why he's bringing this forward. The piece I wanted to be clear, typically when a council member wants to put something on, you have a policy on a two-step process. However, when you have council members sitting on, representing you on a commission or an outside agency, it feels fully appropriate to me that that person who wants to bring representative come back and ask the council for feedback in terms of how they're going to vote, that just comes straight to you. So I don't know how often this has occurred in the past. This is how I've dealt with it in other agencies. And so with that, put the request from Councilmember Cook on, and we'll let him explain his request to you.
Yeah, it's a common, in a lot of JPAs, there comes a time that when you vote after the forming of the JPA, and how the members want as far as advocacy and voting, we're going to have this vote in March based on this. I voted no, but the rest of the colleagues voted yes, because I wanted to come back to the council and discuss. And the other members of the JPA for the GSA are going to do the same. I don't have a recommendation, so I'd like the council just to think if 50-50, one way is, do we want as a jurisdiction to combine with others on possibly endorsing different political measures? How do you figure out what is the criteria for that? I've spoke with a couple members from other jurisdictions that, like LAFCO, that has different language. So this is going to come to the GSA, but I just wanted to mention it to my peers on the council and see how you felt about it. And during the voting, depending on our discussion tonight, we could put parameters in the way that we would be voting, or we would be voting no. What my discussion at the meeting was that I felt that the GSA is a newly formed, or so newly formed, that it would be good to wait a year to let things kind of see how things work out. But I guess there is some pending legislation that has water bonds and different issues that will come up. So there was a little bit of trying to urgency on that level. But my recommendation to the GSA at the point was just to wait a year and then revisit it. But I'd like to see what my colleagues have to say.
I like your idea of waiting. So I'm on the legislative committee, and we take positions on legislation that affects cities and various points, but that's been the point of the committee for a long time. So it's, on the one hand, I think that if it's something that all of you really believed in and wanted more support on it, you could bring it back to your councils, and we could, send a letter from each of the agencies, which I think would be effective if there was something that was particularly important.
That's good advice. Thank you.
So I'd like to take it out to the public.
Maybe just one other comment, maybe just as you think about this. Your other option on this would be there's a timing restriction, there also could be a level restriction. Maybe it's taking advocacy only on state initiatives, not county, not getting involved in, city issues or anything happening in the county or the region. That could be another way to slice a conversation here.
That was a question asked as well. Do we have any comments from the public?
Hi, Fred Allebach, ALLEBACH, 19550 8th Street East, and I'm on the GSA Advisory Committee, and I attended the meeting that Councilmember Cook is talking about. And so the two bonds, one of them is the Parks Bond, SB 5, which will be on the June ballot, and that's for $1.5 billion drought and water money. And there's no specific groundwater funding there, but there's a potential $240 million for projects. And on the November ballot will be the water bond, which is $8.8 billion, and that's going to be $640 million for the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act at the local level. So one of the things in the meeting is Chair Gorin of the GSA mentioned, what if the member agencies have different interests or positions than other? And I think that's what Councilmember Cook was worried about. But I think that the GSA has a common interest of all the different agencies in the basin for conserving groundwater. And I agree with Director Rabbit and Director Gorin. Rabbit said that you have to play the game to get the funds, and want to be engaged, be the squeaky wheel. And Chair Gorin said that we could be recipients if we're in the mix, and the ratepayers are going to be paying for projects anyway. And so I think that money for projects for the Groundwater Sustainability Agency could be things like monitoring wells, to monitor areas of the valley that we want to find out if they're declining more or others, or recharge projects, expanded use of recycled water. There's a lot of good projects that could be done with this money. And I think that the GSA is going to serve the common interests of all basin stakeholders, and this would be a benefit for the whole valley. So I think that it would be worthwhile to stand in support of advocating to get this bond money, because the GSA is a good agency that's working to conserve a common pool resource for the whole valley.
Thank you so much. Are there any others from the public who would like to make a comment? Seeing none, no one rising to come to the podium. So what is the pleasure of, here's what I heard that I did like. What David said is that it sounds like there's a lot of things in this frying pan, and we don't really understand what those are and how they affect our fellow cities, or, as Kathy suggested, the state of California. And it's almost like possibly we could develop a policy for supporting something within this realm, but that's certainly the pleasure of the council. And David? Yeah, sure.
Well, first of all, thanks for bringing this forward. I think that's great. But the only thing, in addition to the actual merit of these, is that if bond measures are going to be on the ballot, we have to consider our own measures that are going to be on the ballot at the same time, because voters aren't going to vote for a barrage of taxes, essentially. And so I think it is really important not only to consider the merit of the bonds, but also how those will work in conjunction with our own things that we might place on the ballot. And so we wouldn't want to jeopardize our own, if we're going to increase TOT, but then ask people to increase TOT, but then it's on the same ballot with a bunch of other things asking for taxes, it might become confusing, and then our TOT could be defeated because people are not wanting to vote for a whole bunch of taxes. So I think that's a good idea, to wait and see, and also to be really careful about things like that are going on the ballot at the same time.
I agree to wait and see and push it off for the time being and support Councilmember Cook. I'd be open to the state issues, but the local and regional stuff I have a tough time with.
So we've had input. What is necessary at this point?
At this point, I think we're looking there. I think Councilmember Cook will be looking for some kind of a motion from his colleagues, or if he'd like to make a motion based on what he's heard.
Yeah, I'd like to go ahead and make a motion that this city council deny the request of the GSA to get any endorsement of any state or local issues, and revisit this in 1 year. And if there is more discussion, it would come back to the council, and then the council would make a decision at that time.
And basically, they are authorizing you to vote in that manner.
Yes.
I'll second that.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Henley.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Harrington.
Aye.
Councilmember Edwards.
Yes.
Councilmember Cook.
Aye.
Mayor Agramonte.
Aye.
Thank you.
And thank you, David, for bringing this forward, because to move forward without us, that really, I think it would have been very difficult for us.
And for the record, the motion carried 5-0
Oh,
unanimously.
thank you. Thank you. Well, I think at this point, I can't believe it, we're council members' reports and comments. Oh, thank you.
I have a report. So I went to the Sonoma County Mayors and Council Members Legislative Committee, and Friday was a deadline for all of bills, so we haven't seen them, but there was a few that the committee jumped on to support. One was Prop 68, the Parks, Water, Climate, Environmental Program bond. There's also one, Prop 69, which is to prohibit the state legislature from diverting all of the new transportation funds. And then the other exciting one, Senator McGuire introduced a bill for a coordinated emergency alert system, and so we supported that one also. So there's some interesting things happen. There's also some initiatives that are a little concerning to us, like one that would require all general taxes to pass by 2/3 in both the legislative body and by the people. And for our general taxes here in Sonoma, we don't hit 2/3 anymore, even with our local sales tax. So it'd be really difficult for a lot of things. But there's a lot of stuff going on, and I will keep you updated.
Thank you so much. City manager comments and announcements?
None this evening, thank you, with my poor
Well,
voice.
thank you. I have news. We're adjourned.